I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all of you for today's tech leadership talk on getting your cloud migration strategy right. We have Dr. Vani Gopalan. She's IT Director and India COE Lead with Flowserve. Dr. Vani, welcome as a speaker, and thanks for accepting the invite. We are looking forward to interacting with you.
Thank you, Renu. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, so I will just take very quick few minutes. There are some of you who are new in the session, but I'll go quick. Women Who Code, our mission is to inspire women to excel in technology careers. Our vision is a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and tech leaders. We have a code of conduct. Please do take a look at that on our website. Primarily, we like to see that there are no differentiation made based on all these aspects of identity, sexual orientation, etc. So anybody can sign up on Women Who Code Hyderabad by logging into www.womenwhocode.com. Sign up first time, choose Hyderabad as network, and all these meetup invites will be available to you. So today we have Dr. Vani. The impact we want to create is upskill, cross-skill, get women back to work, support and mentor women in early technology careers, etc. So I have my two women co-directors, Bani Aline Korjoli from SFDC, and Saraswati Narayan from Bank of America, and myself from Bank of America. Our team is what defines our community. We have focus on technology, innovation, and leadership. The tracks we have are all listed here: tech talks, live stream events, tech studies, interactive sessions, panels, fireside chats, networking opportunities, product demos, etc. And the focus tracks you can see: front-end, mobile, Python, blockchain, cloud, data science. So today we have focus on cloud. So there is a separate community for Women Who Code Cloud as well. But today we are running it as part of Women Who Code Hyderabad. We just on June 10th and 11th, we concluded our annual event, global event. Women Who Code, as you know, is a community of 290,000 women, 290,000 plus members worldwide, present in 122 plus countries. So this event is global. This year it was virtual. So this is about the 290,000 members worldwide. The resources can be accessed from anywhere in the world. So let's come to the speaker today. Vani, welcome again. So we'll start out, and my first question to you is, please tell us about transformation your business is undergoing in terms of migrating on-premise applications to cloud. So basically migrating the workloads to cloud, what do you see as an opportunity?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so before starting with that, I would like to set the context of the whole discussion today, right? So all of us know that organizations are switching to cloud at a faster rate than ever right now. And having a sound migration plan is a must for any enterprise that is taking on this task. So along with this plan, what you will also want to perform is the due diligence to really understand the cost and the risk and the returns associated with this migration. So we as an organization, like I come from Flowserve, so we as an organization with this objective of wanting to embark on the cloud migration journey did a combination of both, with a rigorous analysis of costs, which in itself justifies the need for transformation, together with a deep qualitative understanding of the long-term gain that we would get from this endeavor. So as two terms, right? The cloud migration. these two words are very simple, but behind these two words is an active global matrix of strategies, plans, tests, and implementations that will ultimately help our organization to run more smoothly, safely, and efficiently in the global economy. So we, as Flowserve, we embarked our journey on migrating to cloud, on migrating our major application, that is Oracle E-Business Suite, last year. And along with this, what we also realized is certainly there was an opportunity for us to perform the application upgrade, the database upgrade, and the Java version upgrade to make sure that we are more current in our EBS environment space, and also to align towards a more secure and reliable industry standards with a key business objective. So from a business understanding, from a business benefits standpoint, of course, we realized that there were three needs that needs to be addressed through this transformation or through this migration. So one is achieving greater economies of support. Two is to make sure there is advanced security and strong threat prevention, and definitely to have a simplified administration. Let me also tell you that we have varied line of business with a history of acquisitions, and that is why we have 4 Oracle instances in our organization, for different lines of businesses. And all these 4 Oracle instances are candidates for our migration journey that we had. So just few things I would like to highlight, like what we have gone through in this migration, and then we can talk about the steps and things like that. So basically, as part of this journey, we managed to consolidate around like thousands of users and accelerated various business processes, interfaces, Samba shares, and automated many tasks, like a lot of things. So this journey, of course, from a methodology standpoint, we picked a lift and shift methodology, in which we are going to cover in the architecture and things like that. But the kind of effort that went through with the resourcing standpoint, we actually picked a pretty resource intensive engagement throughout 26 weeks of project tenure that really involved people from internal, that is in-house team members, technical as well as functional Oracle consultants, and then migration, and then interface, a technical team, security team, people from cybersecurity, infrastructure, as well as our service partners who actually, gave a form to the whole project in terms of collaborating and connecting and working together. And I must mention, Renu, that this was a program or a transformation journey where there was zero travel. So we kickstarted the journey when the travels were completely unbanned. So, and people working from different time zone, different region, and everything. And I'd say it was just the communication, consistency, and the commitment that everyone brought to the table, helped us to get where we are today. So with this course, right, we had a lot of opportunities to evaluate, various migration tools and strategies on backing up, for example, what kind of an incremental backup process that we can use, like RMAN backup and things like that, to make sure that we can achieve a single window cutover, because we never wanted to, at the entire phase of the project, we never wanted to have any kind of business disruption at all. Business should never suffer. That was the intention that we had. And like I said, flexible team, a collaborative mindset throughout was something which was key here. That also helped us to, pick certain things from various iterations and take it back, to follow through the cutover. So that is the crux of what we have gone through as part of this transformation, if I had to say in a nutshell. So coming back to the model itself, and I'm going to touch on the steps that we took in the future slides actually. So cloud actually offers every organization to adapt different cloud models, right? And which really depends on how they want to use, whether depend less, depend more, or whatever. So we picked the platform as service, which means the cloud platform, plus it also provides you the additional resources and infrastructure components where definitely you can, pay as you use, you can go with that structure, along with the components that you receive are like service orchestration, and then you have storage, you have network, infrastructure, and all other resources that gives you a well-rounded option. But then it depends on what every organization and the business need is, like, whether I can do a hybrid, I can go with a platform as service plus a software as service, or again, combination with an infrastructure as service as well as platform as service. So it purely depends on which organization you are from and what is your type of business and what is your business need at that point in time when you're actually going through this change or this transformation.
Hi, Dr. Vani, thank you so much. And let me progress the discussion further. So as part of this cloud migration, what are key elements of your strategy?
Okay, so I would say, cloud migration strategy in itself is a process of planning and preparation, that needs to be conducted. So, there are various steps that every organization recommends. But from our experience standpoint, I would like to say there are 5 key things that we need to consider when it comes to cloud migration strategy. First is creating your own cloud migration plan. And what it comprises of, it is basically the migration checklist that one has to have. For example, define your business purpose for migration. What is your purpose? Why do you really want to migrate? Because today, like people, everyone is hearing about cloud migration and cloud transformation. So there is a lot of good information as well as there is a lot of overview that everyone has, and that perception. There's a lot of perception building on itself also. So it is required for us to be specific on what your business purpose for the migration is. Evaluate your migration cost and the needs. Like the very initial step that one has to take from an organization standpoint is like, I'm just not talking about the levels, right? You're right from the executive leadership group as well as people who are involved. It is very necessary for us to evaluate the cost and the needs. Why are we doing it? Assess the environments and the applications. What is the environment that you want to use? And then assess your application needs. For example, compare your on-prem utilization, for example, the CPU utilization and what is the server build and everything along with what you want to do on the target system. So that is something which you will cover in detail in the architecture as well. And then choose the cloud environment, whether you want to go on a single tenant or you want to go on a multi. So that is something which is an organization preference and depends on what are the constraints that you have and what are the preferences that based on that the choice can be made. And we earlier spoke about determining the deployment model, whether it should be a
great. Thank you, Vani. Yeah, nice to hear about the 5 key elements and steps that you spoke about. Carrying the discussion forward. So as part of this workload migration to cloud, you say there were certain architectural changes done. So what changes to the underlying architecture did you have to do as part of this migration strategy? If you may delve into it a bit more.
Okay, so what I would like to say is like I stated in the diagram, if you see, the architecture looks very same. Like the methodology that we picked is lift and shift, which is like to like. With a difference, if you see here, the DMZ node, which is nothing but a physical or a local subnet that separates your local area network from other untrusted networks, right? So this is basically in Oracle. If you see, you can use this for an example. Could be iSupplier. Where the customers has to come through your network for using the iSupplier and things like that. So that remains the same, and the node that you're using for application remains the same. The CM node, and then if you see the database node here we are using 2, whereas if you see on the target that is on Azure, the Microsoft claims that 1 database node would suffice to make sure that the load balancing is managed. So that is one change that we have seen here. However, I would like to re-emphasize on what I said before, that comparison of the CPU utilization and the server details and everything. This is where we need to make a wise decision on what is the comparison you make from on-prem to Azure. So, for example, on-prem, if your CPU utilization was 16, we recommend that you go at least 1 level higher. The next is 32 on Azure. Go with that, scaling up right in the beginning and see the performance and the user experience, and later, based on the performance, you can always scale it down. that actually works as a best practice than, the other way around, where you're first scaling down and then you see the performance really bad and you try to scale up. So that is something which I would like to really focus, for people who are looking into transforming into cloud.
Great. Let's carry discussion forward. And so I'm interested to know the migration approach as such. And as part of that approach, do you practice testing stage, and at what time do you actually test that migration, if you can delve into that?
All right. So from an approach standpoint, right? So we actually took a staggered approach, like, the phase-wise approach, which is like we call them as iteration 0, iteration 1, 2, UAT, and go live. And if you see, I mentioned at the beginning that our methodology was we would also upgrade our application, the database, and the Java version along with the migration that we would do for the Oracle EBS. So the iteration 0 was pretty much, the as-is migration from on-prem to Azure. That's what we did, and we also did the time calculation of how much time it really took. And then iteration 1 was pretty much looking at, the database upgrade along with, looking at the timing, and then looking at the testing, and is there any, bug fixing or fixing any issues that we have seen in the phase 0, that is the iteration 0. And making sure that all the interfaces and integrations are working fine, like testing those. So to answer to your question on the testing, if I have to say, testing actually was there at every phase for us. However, if I have to really divide that, technical testing was always there by our technical teams, that is internal technical teams, as well as the vendor partner who was partnering with us for the migration. And then we really want to keep the business teams informed at various stages. However, we wanted to involve the business only during the UAT phase so that they can perform the application level of testing, and they can help us with that. So that is on the testing part. And the iteration 2 was pretty much, covering all the aspects of, the database migration, and then we did the application upgrade, making sure that, the issues and everything was documented properly in the runbook, and end-to-end testing was performed along with the performance testing as well. So we made sure that, we follow a conventional as well as a latest, hybrid variety of performance testing during the iteration 2. And then the UAT was pretty much like your production rehearsal. Everything was documented, and every activity that we did was timed, and that is when the users were brought into picture, where the key users did their testing as part of their processes and things like that. And then we hit the go live. So testing is it's in a phased out manner where we have different stakeholders in getting involved in testing, so that we are covering all the required level of testing from the project standpoint.
Hi, Vani, thanks so much. Moving on. So you mentioned various kinds of testing, as part of the migrating workload to cloud. So you do functionality, performance, etc. So how do you specifically go about testing for performance levels?
Okay, so so what we have actually done is first, before when the project, as we started the project, before starting the project, what we have done is we try to analyze what is the business objective, like what are the parameters, or what are the key aspects of testing. So from a functional standpoint, I mean, it's a migration. We are not actually touching the data, as in we are not making any changes to the data. So with this in mind, what we have done is we've created the test scripts, made sure that we have robust test scripts, and we are doing the tests at various levels, both for the functional aspects of it, and even for the interfaces and things like that. Like it could be basically like opening the form with various super user responsibility, and how much time it really takes to query the data in a web page. Then updating a record on the web page, how much time it takes in on-prem versus how much time it is taking in your Azure, so that we are able to map the performance, or at least, if not the performance being better in the Azure, but at least it should be on par with on-prem. A few other things is like, navigating to different web page, navigating or running the key reports and how much time it really takes, and switching between different responsibilities as well, how much time it takes from an on-prem versus Azure. That is what we did, and some high critical reports that is run, those are automated reports as well. So we made sure that, we are also running those reports and seeing the time it takes, along with the load testing also, like, having many people logged in during the same time and see like how is the load and how the system is picking up. These are a few things that we did. There were, of course, some of the observations that came in for one of the instances that was on the manufacturing module, and then we took the best practice out of it and then tried to make sure that the next iteration covers those lessons learned and the fixes were applied accordingly.
So in your experience, did the performance with the cloud go above the performance of on-prem?
Absolutely, it did. I would say significant performance change on Azure.
Okay, and I will later find out from you, how do you compare the on-prem versus the cloud performance? So let's move on. So all this is going on and creating great business impact. And you, in the beginning itself, you mentioned that there is an ROI to be done to see business benefit before you go about it. So you have determined a cutoff ROI. And how did you go about measuring this business impact?
Okay, a few things, right? I mean, of course, there are a lot of impact, business impact with this which we took as a key metric. But I would like to touch upon two things. Minimizing IT cost, right? So, like I said in the beginning also, so the option that we picked, the pass, is something like, Microsoft Pay. You can just pay as you go model, allows us to pay only for what you need, and from a resourcing standpoint, right? And this cuts down the entire IT administration cost and also the infrastructure cost and everything. So that there itself we could see a significant difference. And earlier we had our internal teams really working in those areas where we had these physical centers, and they were really taking care of these racks and these systems over there and all that. So that effort from a resource, like as in human resource as well as the infrastructure standpoint, that we could see a great cost reduction from that side as well. That's one. And the other thing is the data security. Of course, from an on-prem standpoint as well, the data is secure, but Azure provides you additional data security, like the example I quoted. During the course of our project, the iSupplier was one of the biggest example I can really talk about, where we had to go through so many security checks to allow in when we were trying to access the iSupplier from an external external source. It was very difficult it was kind of impossible to let it in, right? Until we created some different port and things like that to make sure that we are following all the security and governance processes. When it is on clouds today, I have personally seen how the challenges, how it works. But then from a data security standpoint, we feel as an organization that our information, our data is secured on cloud. That is one. And then the performance itself, I would like to say that compared to on-prem to Azure, running the reports, like you must be aware of the advanced supply chain planning report, which is very, very critical for manufacturing organizations. And these kind of reports, which normally used to take few minutes, like 10 minutes, is something which really takes like very few minutes or seconds to run on Azure, and based on the CPU utilization and other resources that we have deployed. So I would say it is definitely a boom, moving on to cloud, and it is actually giving us benefits in terms of how we are actually, even the data, I would say even the mobility, right? So mobility of information or the document sharing is become so good that multiple people can access it together at one point in time and without any lag. So I would say it is really a value addition from a business standpoint, provided we consider as an organization, not only us, right? Anybody who's going through cloud transformation as an organization, it is considered as a business value addition than looking at it as an IT initiative. So that is what I would like to call it out.
That's great. So you have this migration done, and I'm just wondering if everything went as you predicted, or were there some surprises? How did you ensure that you achieved a fail-proof migration? And what were the key success factors around that?
Yes. So yes, challenges were definitely there, and in the first this first question discussion itself, I told you, like, we explored a lot, like for backup, the admin backup, and we also realized during that is why the iteration that we had, iteration 1, 2, and the UAT, that really helped us to get prepared, like solid proof preparation in what we want to achieve, and we were prepared to just achieve success and nothing than success, right? So we actually in the iteration 1, we realized that the backup, because of the network, because of the internet bandwidth, the backup is actually not getting completed within the stipulated time, and we had to really evaluate what are the other options we had, and then we had to connect with the vendor partners to make sure that we get the best option that got accelerated for the backup and things like that. That is one I can think of, which was kind of a roadblock, where we had to really put our minds together and think like what can be done better. However, because of this various stages that we had, various iterations, we could really leverage the time that we had. From a success factor standpoint, the first and foremost thing I would say is like the cloud migration itself, right? It involves various stakeholders, right from the toppest person in the organization till the lowest person in the organization who's involved in the project. So until unless everyone has alignment and the clear visibility of the project on what is expected out of each person and what is the end goal of the project, I don't think it would have been possible. So in our organization, I mean, I can just say that to you very proudly, that everyone had the same vision. Of course, like I said, people working, travels were not there, and people working in different time zone, working with different vendor partners for Samba shares and interfaces was a biggest challenge, I would say. Like, there were so many interfaces which were not documented, it was not there at all. So we had really created a interface repository out of this project, which can be used as a living document for future projects as well in the organization. So that is something which is also like a lesson that we took, and all this happened because of that collaborative work in the with everybody in the group. And adhering to the governance process is something which I can never forget, because our cybersecurity group, the infrastructure team, and Oracle governance, we were all working together in making sure that every aspect, governance is a key role that plays, and it was part of our enterprise model as well in the project structure itself. And involving the competent people, see, technology will work right only when it is given in the right hands. So that is the method we really picked, making sure that we are successful in every milestone. And the other thing I would like to say is, communication was a lifeblood. Just because we were not connecting, we didn't know who we were working with. Like, we were not meeting people face to face and things like that. So virtual, working model actually was we try to create effectiveness out of that virtual working model. And I can very well say that if we could achieve a cloud migration in such a successful way in a virtual working environment, we can do anything in this world with that. So that kind of commitment and rigor that people contributed in, our vendor partners, our own employees, our leadership group, everyone were just inclined towards making this initiative a successful one. So, I mean, these are a few things which will always remain in my mind and heart for this project on what are the success factors really.
Great. All these learnings you have had and key success factors, etc., you spoke about. But the fact is, everybody's migration has not gone well always, right? So there are mistakes. What do you believe are the typical mistakes? And if with respect to the learnings you just spoke about, if you can summarize, what are the typical mistakes happen in cloud migration?
Okay, the first and foremost thing I would say is people really consider this as just an IT only initiative or IT only strategy. The assumption in the organization. I believe and what really worked well for us is like really marrying your project management and your change management process together. So project management will take care of your technology migration and all the technology aspects of it, but your change management methodologies will really address and take care of the people side of it. So all the communication that needs to be managed with the executive leadership or be it with the stakeholders like business teams and everyone, bringing everyone under the same roof as in under the same understanding actually is a key. So people, I believe, miss out on that, and that is why business thinks that it is an IT only initiative, and you see the adoption becomes very limited, and participation from a business and other stakeholder standpoint becomes very limited. That's where we face challenge as in how do we really pull everything together, because this initiative is not only IT, it touches everyone in the organization. Like my organization is of 18,000 employees, and it touched everyone because iExpense is on Oracle GSS, and it had to touch every employee there. And then the HR applications is on Oracle. It touched everyone in the organization with all kind of sensitive information over there. If we are not taking everyone along, so I think we are missing things somewhere. So that is one of the key things I would like to say, Renu. And a few other aspects what I can think of from a mistake standpoint is like always from a comparison standpoint, from an architecture, your current utilization, whatever resources are available on the current system, like on-prem, I think it is recommended that we do a proper study in the assessment phase itself, like what is the resource requirement from a CPU and all other things that we want to deploy. Let us always have one level above what we have currently, so that the user experience at least is not disturbed. That is something which can be always taken into consideration when we are thinking about cloud strategy. And then the whole project team, right? The people who work in the project. I think from an alignment standpoint, it's very much it is very much expected that everyone has the same vision. Like why are they working for this project? So people working in the project cannot say like, I've done with my part of testing, I'm going away now. So you have to work as a team. You have to work together in making sure like how you can help each other, and that is something which is key, and which could also stand as a mistake where we fail out on things and we want to catch up at a very later point in time. So that shouldn't happen. And just one last thing I would like to say is, we make certain assumptions and decisions in choosing our deployment partner. So we actually do it at a very later point in time, or we don't give much of a thought about it. We think like, okay, cloud migration or cloud strategies just is all in one. And, we just hand it over to somebody, and then we realize only when things are falling out of shape. So I think if these things are, taken into consideration and assessment from a RACI standpoint also, it's very important that when you're having 2-3 service partners, who are working with you, or your own internal teams are working on certain aspects of, doing the interface testing and integrations and things like that, it is mandatory for us to have those RACI documented very well, so that if people takes accountability and responsibility of what they are expected to do from a project parallels.
Hi, thanks, great Vani. Let's now, I believe the technical part of your discussion very nicely done. Thank you so much for it. We are all very curious, with all this tech and leadership and, staying abreast with all the latest in the world in IT. So let's dwell a bit on your work-life aspects and beyond work alone. So do you think being a woman has been an advantage or inhibitor? What is your experience been like?
Yeah, so actually this is a brilliant perspective, I would say. So today, equity and diversity is a priority for most of the organizations, right? And I can just tell you that I'm privileged to having been working with companies like which really consider diversity as inclusion as their driving force as well in terms of enabling the opportunity for everyone. So I would not say men or women here, to everyone. However, I think what is really important is, in my perspective, Renu, is like, becoming a leader or growing in a career involves much more than someone putting you in that role, in a leadership role, like acquiring the skills and adapting to the style that is required for the role. It involves a fundamental identity shift, irrespective of whether you are a man or a woman. It requires that, and if you are able to play that second part very well, I think that is what makes you stand out. So that's my perspective about this.
Well, I think I want a bit more, Vani. So give me examples. Just one example, maybe, when you think you could do it so brilliantly well because you're a woman, or maybe other way around, you suffered because you're a woman. Either examples.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Example, definitely, I would. I would share a positive example, of course. So I think certain traits, right? I'm not to compare, but certain traits like multitasking is something which is I would say, which is an art that women play, and that is something which stands as a core strength for me. Like, leading any projects as well as my people management responsibilities, I can do it effortlessly. So that has really helped me to get an edge in any kind of aspects, any kind of job aspects that I've played a role of. And the other thing is, like, practicing compassionate leadership. So this is like, you always look at why for things. When somebody, from a human behavior aspect, someone is behaving in a certain way, good or a bad way, you always think like why the person is doing it. So I think as a woman, this trait comes across very well naturally. You don't have to put any effort to bring that compassionate leadership. It comes by itself. So I think that makes you. I felt that really made me stronger and do my role well, and at least I'm content with what I'm doing, actually. If that answers it.
So I saw in your profile, you mentioned you are an Iron Lady grad, right? Or what, Iron Lady alumni. And also I saw in your DP that you were caring for a pet. So since we are in a bit of work-life discussion, so would you just narrate a bit about those?
Sure. So Iron Lady is my passion, I would like to say, right? I love to connecting with people and bringing best out of people. I'm passionate about that, and I think Iron Lady's mission is also really empowering 1 million women in this world and in shaping them as great leaders. So that resonates very well with my passion, and that's why I'm associated with Iron Lady. Yeah, and I took some programs from them, and I'm also a volunteer, doing certain activities for Iron Lady. That's about it. The pet story. So right now all of us are working from home and managing work life in the best way possible. So the pet is really I would say he's an addition in our family, and that's a change that I really incorporated in my life, just because my son wanted to have a pet at home, and earlier there were no openness for pet and all that. But today, if you see, like, I'm his biggest fan, and I just care for him with so much of compassion. And again, that women thing comes out so much where where I can't see him suffer, I can't see him just on his own. So that is something which also keeps you feel you're a human. At times it makes you feel vulnerable. At the same time, you're stronger as well when you get back to your serious business. So that's something about the pet and the Iron Lady training.
Yeah, and I think you beautifully talked about the work, the family, yourself, and how being a woman has been empowering for you. What's your advice to others? Do you come across people who literally are on the verge of giving up, or those who are really flourishing? What's your outlook to all this?
Yeah, see, I would say, first thing is, like, let's not think about balancing anything, balancing anything. Like, the minute when you think about balancing something, you are compromising on something else. So I think there should be a shift in perspective for all of us, right? Because women are providers as well as caregivers today. So you have to have something to go and provide to somebody else, as in inner self. So I would say, like, the perspective all of us should really change is like, think about maximizing in every aspect of it, like, from the relationship that we have in our personal life as well as professional life, and making sure that we give enough and receive enough from them. And people who are at a standstill state, like, how do I manage and at burnout state? Certain things, like, at certain, I would say a piece of advice that which really worked for me is like actually prioritizing what is important for me, without any guilt. If there are so many family functions that I need to attend, and I cannot attend everything just to please somebody else. So what is that important thing where I need to be part of? At the same time, there are so many calls, office calls that happens on a daily basis. Like where my presence is very, very essential. That is something which I need to pick so that I'm able to focus on other things as well. And I would say, manage the flexibility than giving excuses. At times, we as women, I think, without unknowingly, we give excuses like, I had to attend my kid, I had to attend my pet, I had to do this, that's why I was not there for the meeting. So those kind of things can be managed very well if we have alignment with our boss or the team members or people in our family, so that we are always able to be flexible and not showing up as an excuse with somebody. I think the most important thing is me time. And this is something which is your core, which is for yourself. So all the women, or everybody, I would say, all human beings for that matter, have to spend some me time for themselves, where they are spending that 15 to 20 minutes or even 1 hour of quality time, where they really love to do what they love to do and why they do it, right? That would keep them charged up. And finally, health matters. So we have to be like, physically, mentally, emotionally healthy and happy. Because if we are drained out fully, there's nothing for us to offer to someone, even to our own child, or even to the team members or whichever group we work for. So that is very critical. And my personal recommendation to all the people out there is like, get your master checkup done. Take care of yourself and love yourself, like, love your body, love yourself, and see in the mirror and talk to yourself, say that, I am the best in this world. These things really lifts up your spirit, because all of us goes through those challenging moments and situations where you feel like, things are not working in our favor. But giving up is never an option on anything, and being stressed is never an option. We have to always fight back and, follow these very small mantras that would help us to keep our spirits very high. Yeah, that's something which I follow as well.
Hey, Vani, thank you so much. I do have a number of participants and also my co-directors. So I will let Saraswati and Vani take over and drive some discussions, their own questions and questions from participants. Over to you, Vani and Saraswati. And I'll stop presenting. These are some of the very nice sessions we did recently. Many of you participated. Appreciate your support going forward. Thank you so much. I'll just stop sharing. Over to you, Saraswati.
Thank you, Renu. And thanks for that wonderful talk, Vani. I had a couple of questions myself. Maybe I'll go first and then hand it over to others too. So the first was on the, cost savings from cloud migration, right? So many times a business case is presented in a certain way, and then the savings perhaps are as good as the assumptions made. So what are some of the pitfalls or some of the, devil in the details that we should be looking at when we really, want to threadbare analyze what would be the cost savings from a cloud migration? That's my first. So I'll let you answer that and then go with the second one.
Sure. So I would suggest, like, certain things to be considered when we are presenting the cost strategy to the senior leadership. And of course, assumptions are key. Assumption is required. But then what are the key aspects that you want to cover from an infrastructure wise? Like, what is the cost that we can really eliminate? So you don't have to make an assumption on that. You would already have the details, because you're incurring those costs, your long-term as well as your operational costs. So those can be taken as a as a data point to compare, like how it's going to work when you from today with the on-prem versus how are you going to manage it with the pay-as-you-use service with Azure Cloud. And the second thing can be from a resource standpoint, like as a human resource. From a managing a physical data center with all those racks and all the physical equipments and everything, From a human resource standpoint, how does it work versus how does it work when you are really outsourcing it to a partner where you only pay for what is like you're basically using them as rent, paying rent and using them. So how that really works. So you have the information on those resources as well, like what you're paying currently. And then the third thing is like, long-term cost can be something which can be thought through with these efficiencies that you're bringing in. And finally, something which is not cost-driven, but a business value addition, like user experience. Because today you see this cannot be, quantified with the dollar value, but of course it can be quantified with a larger extent. Like, every organization wants their business to be happy. So I think business value as in customer experience is where assumption can be made because you have not gone into the strategy yet. So my recommendation would be like, look at a lot of other organizations who have already gone through, like, the use cases from those organizations, customer references, and then, use it in your strategy and make it a well-rounded, like one-page slide and go through for the discussion. I'm sure it should.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Vani. That is helpful. The second question was, you did mention that you all started off on this transformational journey when the pandemic had, just started, and so there was zero travel, and that would have been a very disadvantageous situation. And I'm sure you had a lot of difficulties, but you overcame those. But then, as you went through this, did you also, kind of realize that there is an advantage in this situation? I mean, sometimes it happens, right? For example, when we went through this PI planning sessions, typically US folks are in a room and then they are talking, and then when somebody from India joins in through a line, then you don't really hear them well. But in the pandemic, we realized that since everybody is just joined over a bridge line, things are much clearer and discussions are perhaps much better, right? So did you also come across some situation like that where this became an advantage rather than a disadvantage?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And I mean, we went through the similar lines as well, right? And today, our situation was more like, there were a lot of cultural difference as well, because it was not the people from the same organization, but other partner group as well. And, people also with different characteristics and the different work style and everything. So initially it was a kind of disadvantageous, like how do you pull everyone together? So that is why, Saraswati, I said, the change management strategies, because change management is all about people, touching every aspect of people. And how do you, make sure that everyone is in line in your strategy, like be it the vendor partner or be it your own people. So I would say certain things that we really incorporated to make sure there is collaboration in this project phase is we made sure that, people even at the vendor partner level are very much treated like our extended teams. That is something which we did right from the day one of the project, right from the kickoff. They were never treated as someone like, okay, you're a vendor and you will be treated in this way. Not at all. So everyone were treated well. And they were part of our extended team. And the bridge calls, like you mentioned, absolutely everyone was there. But then time zone was a bigger constraint. So we had flexibility. The advantage was the team sitting in India had flexibility to, log in whenever they wake up, because we were working like 24/7. So that kind of an understanding was there and flexibility was there, because we trust, and more than anything else, trusting people was key at that time, and that really paid off very well during these situations.
Thank you so much, Vani. That's a nice perspective that you shared. So with that, over to others for any other questions.
Vani? Yeah, go ahead, then, Srinagesh.
Yeah, so it was very interesting, Renu. Your questions are very important and the answers also were shared very excellently. I want to thanks both of you. My question is, as a vendor partner, before embarking on to get the client approval for such a large scale migration strategy and transformation, suppose if client is seeking an MVP, minimum viable product, or looking at the desirability, viability and feasibility, how to actually go about before they sign off? What was the MVP in your case, Vani?
Okay, so that's a great question, Srinagesh. So what I would see, we had various proposals coming from different vendor partners, and we work with big ticket vendors in, operating from India right now. So without naming them, right? So I would say a few things that we really as an organization, we appreciate from vendor partners is the transparency that they bring in. And from a costing standpoint as well, we do not mind if they are really putting a high price on things, but then the offering. Because what we have seen in the past is for these kind of bigger project engagement, because we are also into a transformation journey of moving all our legacy ERPs into SAP S/4HANA. That's another thing that's going on. So along with that, what we have seen is like the proposals or the value addition that the vendor partner brings in at the inception, is not what is promised. So during the course of time, like in a year or in 6 months, the partnership actually doesn't look like a partnership. It actually dilutes. So my first recommendation would be that transparency is key, and what you offer in your proposal, be it in the SOW or in the actual the RFPs and everything that goes even before considering for getting approved. I think that is key, and maintaining that alongside even after the approval and the project kickoff and everything actually comes as a subset to that, and that really strengthens the long-term relationship as well. But being very, very transparent, as in what can be offered, what not. Because today you see, with my experience, I'm just telling you that for the performance testing, a lot of the vendor partners who were consulting came up with all kind of new technologies and tools and everything with varied price tag attached to it, and we never wanted those kind of testing tools because ours is not a banking sector, right? So from a service partner standpoint, proper study of the business operations or business requirements is key. And then offering the solutions or offering your package according to that will make more sense than offering what is available, what is your niche, than what is required for us. If that answers your question.
Yes, thanks, Vani. I got some useful inputs from that. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, Islaudin here. Thanks, Dr. Vani, for a very insightful session. Personally, it was good to know that you're part of the Iron Man, but your core skill, you said, is compassionate. Being an Iron Man and compassionate, yeah, so it's like unique. You also said that women are more compassionate than men, but I'll ask Renu to schedule a separate session for us to discuss that. I will give my counter views on that. Yeah. So
good one. I like what you said. So being compassionate is not about a gender. Okay. So
no, that's fine. That's just on a lighter side, but I think we can have a separate session to discuss that. Yeah. Yeah. But the topic today is pretty close to my heart, and what we do day in and day out in our group here. Yeah. So one of the things which I noticed when you presented is in your architecture, on your current state, you have a RAG database, which is a 2-node database. Yeah. And on the cloud architecture, you have a single node database. Yeah. So going from a 2-node highly available RAG to a single node database would have been a major decision point, in your strategy, right? Yeah. So what were the key thoughts in taking? Typically, people, most organizations don't do that. Right? They would want to sort of replicate same and go to the RAG database even in cloud. Yeah. So what was the key thoughts or decision points on that strategy?
Yeah, like you said very rightly, we had our own evaluations, and we as an organization were adamant to go ahead with the same like to like. If you see like to like architecture from a TV node standpoint as well. But then there were recommendations. We consulted with Azure, a partner. We are also our partners for cloud strategy standpoint, and then other vendor partners who were part of this migration strategy, and had a lot of brainstorming sessions on what is the impact, or how is it going to be from a load balancing standpoint? Is there going to be limitation or a disadvantage with that. But there were recommendations that came from Azure as well, that it is recommended to go with one node for this in comparison with 2 nodes, and that is how we went ahead with that. And we also did a lot of testing. Of course, we trust our partners. At the same time, we did a lot of testing to see how the performances is for all the 4 of our instances. With all the applications and other the business operations running on it. So I don't think we had any major issue coming out of this. But the rationale is this, we had recommendations coming from our service partners to go ahead with the single node as part of their.
Okay, thanks. I actually got a punchline from your answer, which is trust but test.
Yes.
Good takeaway. Thank you, Salahuddin. Any more questions?
If there is nobody, can I ask once again, Renu?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so for such a complex and large-scale transformation, Vani, did you use any agile frameworks to get every time iteration incremental to measure the metrics and assessment kind of thing, Vani?
Yeah, so I would say it is basically a hybrid approach that we use because that is why the phased manner, right? Each step, of course, for taking the backup and things like that, of course, we picked agile methodology because we had to really see what works and then do betterment over there. And in terms of incremental backups or doing the other steps, like even for the integrations and interfaces, right? Every step or every few days you would discover another new interface that needs to be identified and documented and that needs to be tested. So indeed, I would say agile methodology was part of our strategy, and we were prepared to go ahead and take that. And we also documented it pretty well and shared with our governance groups and the leadership that this is the way we are going ahead with from a project standpoint.
Sure. Thanks, Vani.
Thank you.
Any more questions? If no, I would like to wrap it up. And Dr. Vani Gopal is very much available online on LinkedIn. Those interested in more conversations, please feel free to reach out. On behalf of Women Who Code and my co-directors, I have pleasure of thanking Dr. Vani on such a wonderful, enriching discussion. And thank you, participants, for being there. Please do suggest more topics. Please engage. And we are really looking forward to growing this chapter to greater heights. We are a new chapter. We have achieved 700 plus members already in last 3-4 months, and we look forward to growing it further. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Renu. Thanks for that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Vani. Thank you, Renu, for organizing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Renu. Thank you, Vani. See you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vani. I mean, it has been a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Vani, so you can stop recording. Did you press? Okay, I think I can just say stop recording.